Hey y'all, it's me again, Joey.
Well, ready to let them loose?
Yep, that's it. Let's see if they make us run.
Oh,
Probably so.
yeah, that one tried to get after him, but other than that, what can you expect? I mean, can you blame them? Oh yeah, they're getting after us now. Go, Joey, go!
They mad.
They're mad, buddy. I'm gonna get in the truck. You gotta go back and get your camera.
But also, just get as many as you can off the one next to it. Get out.
We gotta move away.
Do that side again. Y'all ready? Let's get started. What's going on, everybody? Here we are again.
It's we again.
The stream team to come on, and I looked, and it was a little after 7 o'clock. I said, well, they ain't on. What's going on with my computer? And I went to Facebook and saw where they said they wasn't even gonna have one tonight. They was all too busy. I said, well, we're gonna do something about that. How's your day been, JW?
Oh, Joey, I turned from a bee man to a tree man. I've got some tree plantation in river bottoms, and I've got oak trees and cypress planted in there, and it's the third year for them, and I've been trimming it. I made 2 videos up there today, or attempted to make 2 videos. They got home and that's what I was doing before we came on. I went to check them. I don't know what happened. I don't have any voice on either one of them, so it doesn't pay to get old. I don't know what I've done wrong, but
Hey, is that changing your subject right quick? Is that one of those portable greenhouses that pops up like a tent?
They ain't worth a thunder. Don't mess with them.
Well, I've got one that's a little different than that. Yours looks better than mine.
Well, I actually got that from Harbor Freight. It's a cheapie. It didn't cost much money. And you get any high winds, it blows the panels out.
Yeah.
I've got 2 panels completely. It blew them clear out of the country, and I can't find them.
Huh.
I took that early last spring during garden. You can see the garden's growing there. But it's no count. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone because if you get any high winds, that door on the front of it is a slider, and it twisted, and all the panels came out, and it's been a disaster.
Mine is built more like a tent. I mean, the frame and everything just folds like those folding chairs kind of, and you just work it.
Our entire team is aligned.
Work it out, open it up, and that's like a 6 by 8 by 8, I think, something like that. And I got it for the flowers, all these big flower pots my wife's got on the porch.
Yeah.
I got it on the far end from the driveway, anchored down on it, and you can roll all those flower pots up in there. We got tired of bringing them in the laundry room every year.
Well, they serve their purpose if you don't get them out where the wind hits them. It'd be all right.
Yeah.
With that one, every time we get strong winds, it blows panels out. They're just, they got them W clips, if you know what those are, to hold those panels in that aluminum frame.
Yeah.
Probably a guy could take that, and you'd have to, either take some wood strips or some aluminum strips and screw them in there, and they'd probably be all right. But it's the way it is, the way it was manufactured, it isn't worth a hoot, I can tell you. So
Yeah.
kind of pretty sitting there, but it's not very practical.
Yeah, I'll show you what it looks like. What's going on, Tom?
Oh, not too much today. I was working on feeding my bees earlier today. I had been feeding about, I don't know, every week and a half or so, and I'd been feeding at 1-to-1. And we got another nice week, and it looks like next week might be somewhat reasonable as well. But I switched over and I started mixing up some 2-to-1. I'm kind of eager to get them to gain a little more weight, a little faster. So it was about 2-to-1 that I mixed up, and then, I don't know, I made a fit about 100 gallons today. And I'll mix up a little bit more, and I've got a couple more yards to feed, and then hopefully I'll be done. I was kind of digging down into them just a little bit, and I noticed that it seemed like a lot of them are gaining some weight, but I wanted to kind of top them off, basically, So that's what I was working on today. That and trying to clean some stuff up, get some things buttoned up for the season, and getting some jobs ready for next week, too. So that's my story.
Well, I hadn't done anything beekeeping related today. Nothing. Wife had blood work to go get done. She wanted me to ride with her, and I had a item I had to return to the manufacturer. And time I rode with her, and we went to Sam's and spent. You can go in Sam's for free, but it costs you at least $500 to come out.
That's guaranteed.
That was what my day was.
We always, when we're there, we always top off our fuel tank when we're at Sam's, because you can always grab fuel for, it kind of varies. I've seen it anywhere from about 20 cents cheaper to as much as about 45, 50 cents cheaper per gallon. That doesn't happen very often, but you can pretty regularly find it about 20 cents cheaper a gallon. So there's the closest one to our house is about 25 minutes away. So when we go there and stock up, like you said, pretty hard to go to a grocery store and spend less than $500, I remember the day that really wasn't that long ago when my kids were really small, which would have been about 20 years ago. And I could, for $100 bill, I could fill up the entire grocery cart for $100. Now, $100, I can still see every wire in the basket,
Oh, Tommy, I got that mowing job done today. Finished
Oh, yeah?
about 5 o'clock.
Did you get the tractor squared away?
Not yet. It's going to take me another day to clean up my mess.
You probably have about 100 pounds of cut seeds and debris all over that mower and tractor, right?
I took some videos like we talked about.
Yeah.
I got home and went to look at them. I don't know, for some reason I haven't got a bit of voice, so they're worthless.
Oh, man.
You see that comment there, JW? Oops.
Yeah, I seen that. That's probably a good idea. I'm not smart enough to even have thought about that. I could take some of that. There's a marine silicone that actually gets hard and would hold them. Never entered my mind, but I'm probably gonna throw that thing away. I've got another one, that I had the Amish build for me, and it's 3 times as good a quality as what that is. Well, 10 times as good, but it costs 10 times as much also. So, but I do a lot of greenhouse type. Well, mine's a combination greenhouse, and I do a lot of my bee working on my woodware for bees and stuff in there, building shims and double screen boards and whatever I usually do in that other greenhouse of mine. I like it because it's with the lights, with the open top. I'm getting old and my eyes is getting weak, and I can see a lot better, with good natural light. And that's the reason I like to work in there so well, especially in the wintertime.
Yeah.
Hey, Joey, I want to comment on the video that you made the other day. when you were moving all your hives.
Yeah.
I don't know how you stayed calm, cool, and collected. About the time that I'd have been fighting that box, I probably would have kicked the thing over, thrown the camera into the woods, and walked away. I'm not going to lie. When I was watching that last one double box that I seen you didn't strap it up, I know you had put a note in there, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh crap. I'm like, he didn't strap that box. And I'm like, oh, I was sitting on I think I was in bed. Me and Melissa were both sitting on the edge of the bed, and I was so nervous and anxious watching that video. Boy, I'll tell you what, you had me all in knots watching that thing, because I'm like, oh crud. I'm like, he don't have a spot of protection on. That bottom box is going to fall out of there, and those bees are going to be all sorts of ticked off, and they're going to light him up. And I'll tell you what, I was anticipating a bad situation, but that thing actually, you know what? It worked out.
It would have been a good video.
Oh man.
Yeah. I told somebody on one of the lives that if that box had come apart, I would have had to I had a suit in the truck, but I wouldn't have had time to stop at the truck. I'd have had to go all the way back home and get another suit and come back. And it's on the other corner of 12 acres.
Oh my gosh. Now, was that double box pretty full of bees?
It was the heaviest box on the trailer.
Oh man, yeah.
And they were all heavy. The first one I picked up I was thinking, I don't think I actually said it out loud. And every box I picked up got heavier, seemed like it.
I can imagine. Yeah, I had all sorts of anticipation watching that video. I'm like, oh, Melissa, I'm like, look, I'm like, it's not strapped. I'm like, he forgot to strap it. But I'll tell you what, those bees did a phenomenal job of gluing those boxes together, didn't they?
They good propolizers.
Yes, sir.
I was so focused on trying to fit up in between those bushes.
Yeah.
And that hive. And I already knew that bottom box had them homemade handles. I said, for some reason, I didn't even think about the strap.
Yeah.
Well,
I was trying to figure out, I'm like, why is he taking the lifter around the back side of it? And then I realized, and I think Charlie had said something at one point with his, you can't get it on the front side because of the landing board, correct?
The landing board, right.
Okay. Yeah. I've never used it. I've
just be honest with you, I don't know how that box stayed together. I just do not.
Hey, grace of God, that's what it was. You had somebody, you had an angel holding that thing together there on you, because if not, I'm pretty sure those guys would have chased you around after that box would have dropped off and hit the ground.
Yeah,
happy.
That angel was saying, "Look at this idiot, y'all look." Or hold it up.
I mean, if I'm not going to lie, okay, I didn't want you to get hurt, but part of me would have laughed a little bit if I'd have seen you running past the camera, okay? So if I'm being honest here.
I'd be laughing about it now. I wouldn't have been laughing then.
Hey. Yeah, that'd been a good time.
Hey. Yeah, that was kind of funny.
Good video, though.
Goodbye.
When you watch Brad do it, Brad's just makes it all look so easy.
Yeah. Maybe he just edits it for television. Maybe it just edits out all the rough work stuff, you know? Hey, Charlie, does your lifter, does it have solid tires or those aired up tires?
Aired up.
So I can't help but to wonder when I look at it, especially since you're using those machines out almost probably always not on concrete or a hard surface. They should own, and maybe some of them have a different option for it. I don't know. Maybe you have to spend a little more money to get it. But I have these landscaping wheelbarrows, and you know your traditional wheelbarrow only has a very small front narrow tire. And I'm going to say it's maybe, I don't know, 3.5 inches wide or something, not that wide. But the landscape wheelbarrows that I use, they probably have a front tire on them. And I'm going to guess and say it's probably a good solid 6 inches wide. So they do a really good job of floating across, soft soil, turf grass, and things of that nature. So it makes it much easier to push a heavier load. So I feel like they need, on those machines, they need a wide, an air tire would probably run smoother than a solid tire, but a solid tire, you wouldn't have to worry about it going flat. So I don't know. You need a wide tire there is what I'm saying.
I don't know. I mean, the main thing that I find with any of these is having flat ground.
Yeah.
With mine, the length of it, you got to have a lot of room behind you. I'll say 10 feet, 8 to 10 feet, for movability. And I got mine where the width or the wheelbase spacing is wider, so it gives it more stability.
Yeah.
And but as far as the size tires, it does fine. I mean, now when you say you're landscaping wheelbarrows, I've seen the ones around that have 2 wheels in the front.
Yeah.
That's what I got.
I have one of those too. I've got a couple with the single wheels, and I used to have 2, but I got rid of one of them. So I have one with a double wheel, and you can hold a lot of fairly stable, not as good on hills because obviously you can't, tip it, but for that machine, it works okay.
Well, Nancy's statement there, that's pretty much what it has become for me.
Yeah.
That's probably because nobody in this chat wants to watch regular television, right? I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know about you guys. I feel like I'm probably stepping out on a limb here, but I'm probably pretty accurate. I bet nobody in this crowd right here probably watches too much normal programming on television.
I watch a little news now, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
just
haven't had regular TV on in almost 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I just told everybody I watch BTV, and they look at me like I'm strange. And I'm like, well, I get on YouTube, and I, over the years, watch all people's different, YouTube videos of what they're doing in their hives and stuff like that. I pick up stuff on it sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even watch the news anymore, honestly. I quit doing that. I think it was probably about 3.5, 4 years ago. I figure if I want to get lied to, I'll ask one of my boys where they're at after midnight.
Yeah, last night. Now, just because you were that way when you were younger doesn't mean your little baby boys is that way too.
That's right. Well, their mama keeps a close eye on them, so I don't have to really do that too much. So I just let them do their thing for the most part.
Brian might be right on that one. I'll be so lucky next time.
Yeah, I'd say so. JW, I'm looking at that picture behind you, and I can't tell if that's squash or zucchini, but that plants look really good for this time of year. What's your secret?
I'm a master gardener.
I can see that.
And a bigger liar.
Yep.
Actually, one of my sons who lives pretty close to me actually did most of that. I'm just the cameraman.
Good looking raised beds there, that's for sure.
That picture's wasn't even in 24. I think that was last year, 23.
I like how you have that set up on skids. I'm guessing you can probably hook that up to the tractor and drag it around.
Yeah, I'm going to drag it clear out of the country, probably, and dispose of it.
Just wait for another wind.
Yeah, it'll be gone. Yeah.
Well, is that plexiglass that's on those?
That's all plexiglass.
And is it in good shape?
No, it was till the wind blowed it apart.
Oh, okay.
I've got 2 panels. The 2 panels off the top on this side where that's in that picture there that's gone, and it blew them clear out of the country. I guess I can't find them. Never did find them.
That's a lot of solar panel
Mhm.
equipment right
I've
there.
got my neighbor bought a big fancy one, ordered it out of Washington or Oregon State, and give big bucks for it, and had it put together, and had it about a month. And the windstorm blew my all the panels out of that one, blew a tree down on his and crushed it. So I've got I'll have to cut them to the size of mine, but I got some extra panels, but I'm not. I don't think. Well, I may take Honeybee Compound's advice and glue them in, or either that or take some aluminum strips and screw them in, because they won't stay in, but with them W clips.
On the extractor there, if it works at all. 50 frame for 750.
Wow.
Yeah, that's not, if that thing was in good shape, that's probably a pretty good deal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what brand that would be, but DC says some of his bees suck down 2 to 1, and the other ones are taking their time. Yeah, I just with DC was just putting 2 to 1 on the colonies today, actually trying to finish them off, kind of. But that 1 to 1 that I've been feeding, they've been storing some of it and packing it in. So some of those nests were starting to shrink down, because I've got some singles going in, and I've got several nukes going into winter as well. And it seemed like they were shrinking that nest down and packing all that that syrup in around them. So kind of what I'm looking for. I'll probably continue to hit some of those nukes with oxalic acid vapor still. Has anybody been doing any mite washes this late in the year? I'm just curious.
I haven't. Once I'm done feeding, I don't open the hives back up.
Yeah.
I didn't. I had one after I got done with my apricot, Tom. I checked every one. The highest count I had was I had one that was a 4, and I retreated it. But since that time, I haven't. And the rest of it, I had. Well, about half of mine, I didn't have any count on them. I used the Dawn instead of the alcohol this time, just to see how it turned out. So I'm assuming I got a good count, honest count. Hey, Brad.
Hey everybody. Hey, me again, Joy. I
you
get a kick
doing?
out of that. Good. I didn't know you were going live today.
I didn't either.
Oh, you didn't either. Okay, so then the fact that I
didn't.
didn't plug your stream, then it wasn't really a thing last night.
No.
Yeah, I saw the stream team wasn't coming on. I said, we've got to
Oh,
do
I see.
something.
I just finished my supper and then didn't really pay attention to who was on, and then I refreshed and I saw your stream. So I brought Mike with me.
How's it going?
Hey, Mike.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Haven't seen you for at least 24, 48 hours, whatever it was.
I still got my work clothes on.
Yeah.
So I tuned in
last night when you and Bob were on, I was watching both channels at the same time.
Oh, you were?
I just had one of them muted, and I was watching them both just to see what happened.
Yeah, that new format was a little bit different. It was kind of screwing me up when I seen the comments would come. The newest one would come on top, and then the old ones would shut
it's
down.
reversed.
So it kind of messed me up. So when I was looking originally, I'm like, what's going on here? Because I was logged in through your channel, Brad, but I think you all made it a little bit easier for everyone, where everyone could see all the comments regardless of what chat you were coming from.
Yeah, that's the advantage. I know there's some things that were not quite working for people with that, and the fact that it's reversed is weird. Kind of wish they hadn't done that, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I think it is. You're right. To when you have more than one channel, then you can have all of the comments, of course, in that one side. So I mean, I hope it works for people.
Yeah.
You know, with StreamYard jacking their prices, I can't justify that.
Yeah, I just looked at StreamYard, and like you're saying, it's $36 a month. It went from 20 to 36.
Yeah.
And that's paying
36.
that's
Boy.
paying in a yearly advance.
I
It's
thought it was way more than that for me. I paid.
Well, it's $10 cheaper if you pay by the year.
Yeah,
out
I
to-
don't pay by the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll cost me $432 for a year.
Let me
That's
check,
a lot.
Charlie, how much it was, because it was $67 Canadian by the time I paid it.
Wow.
It was $67.
It was $25 a month for me. Then I went ahead and switched over to a yearly.
Yeah, it was $25.
And then it dropped.
$44.99.
It would drop the price down to $20 a month. You know,
$44.99 by the month. No.
Yeah.
And
I looked at Restream a little bit today. I'm gonna have to make up my mind what I want to do. What I want to stay with StreamYard or go with that one.
yeah.
Or do it at all.
There's really, like, in functionality, there's only the two things that I've seen. One of them is really inconvenient. Whereas when I'm on this stream, I can look on the right-hand side, see the comments, and I can post a comment on there. But on Restream, a participant can't do that. Only the host can do that. So the participant actually has to have a window open on YouTube in order to put that comment in. So that's pretty inconvenient.
Yeah, I put this up here on DC's stepdad where y'all. Oh, he was asking prayers for him this morning.
Thank you. I just watched that video, DC, and commented on that. So I'm glad things went well.
Yeah. What else? I mean, like last night, you had the one stream
Hey, boss.
in the where the people's pictures are, or our video part of it is. And then you had the one off to the right. So was that because you had two different streams running at the same time, or with Bob and yours?
Well, I can turn that chat overlay off. So if the stream is not being sent to more than one destination, like last night was my channel and Bob's channel. So if we're not doing that, then I can turn that off, and then you just see all the chat in the regular YouTube comments. But because we're going to two channels, you don't see the chat from the other channel unless I turn that on-screen chat overlay.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is
Right
like
in the
right
main
now
window.
we got the comments off to the right here. Everybody's
Right.
commenting.
Right.
And in the other new stuff, number one, they would have to comment in YouTube. They can't. I only let the six of us. Only the administrator would be able to comment in what's it called? What's this other new stuff thing called?
Restream.
Restream.
Yes, that's what I said a minute ago. That's
But then
kind of a big downside.
What other disadvantages are there?
Well, I don't think there's any other disadvantage. And one of the big advantages is you can actually put that chat overlay on the screen so that everybody can actually see the chat from all the destinations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because often it's like you're chatting and then somebody makes a comment and you think, what in the world are they talking about? Well, they're talking about something on a different channel, or the people on the screen, because in StreamYard we see all of the chat on the side, and then Joey starts talking about this and that and this and that, and then some of the people in the chat are thinking, what in the world, has he finally lost his mind? Because we don't know what he's talking about. Whereas a restream, I can put that right on the screen, and everybody can keep up with the whole conversation then. So, I mean, I think that's a big advantage. Big disadvantage is the participants can't chat on the, like StreamYard. I can just type in that thing, but I'm on the screen. I have this. I can talk. I don't have to do it this way, right?
Yeah, I don't normally type as far as being on the stream.
I think when Charlie thought it was doubling everything, what it was doing was picking up what he was seeing and putting it there again.
Well, I don't know. It seemed like you had two feeds,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to look back and forth between the two, and it was just confusing to me.
The one that was on the screen was actually doing both of them.
Right. Right. You
Okay.
get that, right? So both channels were going on the screen. Only the channel you were viewing that you can see in YouTube. So the one on the screen is both channels.
All right, now I understand.
You get it
I
now.
didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't get that.
Brad and Bob, if you're on Bob's channel,
I was on Bob's
You just-
chat last.
you're
Yeah.
just seeing who's
you only see
texting
that
on Bob's. You don't
Right.
see who's texting on Brad's
Right. Right.
unless you look on the screen.
But the chat comes in and Restream then puts it on the screen as an overlay. Right. And that's what that you see both chats then, or all the chats if you got more than two.
So as a viewer, like Melanie says down here, the only thing I didn't like about it was that you can't scroll back on the comments, and sometimes those comments are coming through so fast you can't
of
read all
course.
of them. So
You
that
can't
was
scroll that because it's on the screen. You
Yeah.
right.
You also can't reach out and poke me in the face.
But that was like
I'm sure you'd
probably,
like to. But that's
but I mean, when you're watching it
But
on
that's no
YouTube,
different than before either, because you can see the comments on the channel that you're viewing.
yeah,
Hey, Randy.
You can
That's one
scroll
reason
that
I had.
back, right? You can scroll that back.
right.
But if the comment is made on a channel that you're not watching, then you never see it,
Right.
let alone being able to scroll it back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one
really-
reason I had both channels open.
Yeah.
But that was for me anyway. The only
Yeah, well, the
drawback
biggest
to it.
thing is depends on how big your screen is too. If you can, segment it out, I guess you would say. Like right now, I got it's the biggest screen I've ever had, and I've got StreamYard taking 2/3 of it up, and then I got YouTube over here off to the left where I'm just seeing the scrolling and everything and all.
Michael's saying he's dealing with third day of attempting to robbing of 2 hives. I'd say make that entrance as small as you can. If not, plug them up. I have seen them robbing, and I've plugged them up all day. Bees piling up on the front. I don't care if they belong inside or outside. I'd leave it plugged up for a day, and then open it back up and see if it all comes down. If it don't, plug it up again. Come at night, pull it and let them go in where they belong. Plug it back up and take them to another yard somewhere.
Yeah,
That's
or
the way
get
I
some
deal
sort
with
of
it.
robbing screen that you can put over it.
Here's something I have not tried, so I can't tell you it works. But I know somebody online. She did it. She had a yard she was working, and I guess a lack of equipment or whatever at hand, she ended up having a huge robbing problem in that yard. And she went around to every hive and took the lid off.
I
She
have
took
heard
every
that.
lid off of that in that yard, and she said within minutes everybody was in defensive mode and nobody was robbing anybody.
I'm going to say this. I believe that will work if the robin bees are from those hives in that yard.
Oh yeah, you're right. If they're your neighbor's
If
bees,
it happened to
it's
be
not gonna
one
work.
out in the woods there somewhere.
Yeah.
Has
I think
anyone
that's
besides me having the big, I've got yellow jackets everywhere. I mean, big time. They're into, you can't have anything open. There'd be 5 million
Yeah, yellow
two
jackets.
bees
hornets,
and
that's
5
different
million
too.
yellow jackets. I get.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm in a rural area with a lot of woods around me, and I've got a lot of colonies of yellow jackets, I'm sure. So
That's a Woodman extractor. If y'all familiar with that brand.
no,
I've never heard of it. I see where Melanie's talking about the fat bee man. Has
Melanie says
anybody heard anything about
fat
what's
bee man.
happened with him? Is he just, I mean, health wise, I mean, is he still around?
I saw a
Anybody know?
Facebook comment from him maybe a week or two ago.
Oh, really?
That's all I can say. So he was still with us.
Thank God there, Tom. I thought you'd had a facelift there for a minute.
Oh.
You disappeared. And I thought
Hey.
maybe facial surgery or something.
I'm back, buddy.
Now with the other program or streaming program, you were saying last night that you could actually adjust everybody's microphones for
Yeah,
them.
I can.
Brad.
Yeah.
Any other like any other features like that?
Well, haven't really gone through everything. Nothing big that jumps out really. The place where, like in StreamYard, when somebody else shows up, at least from Joy's perspective, when somebody else logs on, then he can see that person appear at the bottom, and then he can add them to the stream. And it's the same for Restream, except it's a little more subtle because they're just in little chat bubbles on the right side that kind of cascade down there. You get a little tone, just like StreamYard, but it's a little more subtle. Who was it that had to tell me that they were in the back room? Was it you, Mike?
It was Tom, I think it was.
Was it Tom?
No, that was
It was
me.
JW.
It was no,
It was JW. He snuck in.
It was JW.
Yeah.
No, it was Tom. At least I remember it was Tom.
Yeah, somebody.
Anyway.
It was somebody else too. Had to.
No, you
had
had
to
walked
say it.
away when JW came to come in.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
So one of the nice things is the private chat in Restream is on the other side, and it pops up. So there's no way I can miss it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I've
StreamYard,
seen that
it's a
happen.
different tab on the right, and I can easily miss that. Often people have to, hey, I sent you a message in the private chat, right? Where everybody is, ooh, what are they saying in the private chat? Where Restream, it pops right up, and there's no way I cannot see it. It actually comes out, blocks the bottom corner of the screen. So that was nice. I could see that right away. But, I got in tune into, the little notification. Joey, I was going to say, when I just kind of clicked on your stream, I heard you talking about me. And I thought, what's he saying? And I had to go back quite a ways to see what you guys were talking about. I think you were just talking about using the Hive lifter.
Yeah, it's talking about how you make it look so easy.
Well, and I think that isn't me so much as just the consistency in my boxes. My boxes are very consistent.
Yeah, I've got so many different some for me, and
Yeah, but you don't have to strap yours together. You can just grab them and go.
yeah.
And when you had that video, I was watching. I'm going, he didn't strap that.
Sometimes the bottom board just sticks to it.
Yeah.
You made it all the way across the yard.
Yeah, that's when I got to the trailer ramp. That's when I realized you saw it. I was shaking my head.
Stop and say a prayer of thanks. I hope so. Well, I did my OE again today. That's round 3.
What are you doing that every
You gonna do 4?
I was doing it every 4 days. Yeah, so I'm going to do it one more if I can. Yeah, 40. What was it? 42 seconds or something. Cycle time, and I'm not saying it takes 42 seconds to vaporize the acid. I'm saying that the time it took me to do the yard divided by the number of colonies worked out to about 40. I forget it was now 40 some seconds. So that was nice. That was nice. I did 89 colonies in an hour and 15 minutes.
It seems like it takes about maybe 20-ish or so seconds, give or take, to expel. Well, I guess that really depends on how many grams you're using.
Yeah, 2 grams is 30 seconds.
I'm using 4 grams on it, but it
Yeah.
still seems like it happens very quickly.
Well, now it does. 4 grams takes about a minute or something. I can't remember exactly, but right up there. But I was running to 2 units, so 4 grams twice, like each one, and then takes half as much time, right? So
Yeah.
But
that's
now
why
you're
40
doing
seconds.
what, single brood, just one single brood box.
I've got some double, some singles.
So, I mean, are you doing 4 grams on the doubles and 2 grams on the singles
4 everywhere.
for everything?
I dropped the dose for the 6 frame nukes. I did 3 grams on the nukes today.
The only thing I would like to point out, and I realize right now, you're supposed to be doing here in the U.S. 2 grams per box, or that's what you're allowed to do per label.
No, actually
But,
one.
I think
One
it's
per
2.
brood chamber,
1
right?
gram.
Say again?
Yeah.
They're 1 gram per box is what the label says now.
Yeah.
They're trying to change it to 2 grams per box.
I think you can use the 2 grams if you buy those tablets.
Okay, I don't know why I was thinking 2, but anyway,
Like it was-
regardless.
Matter. I mean, I'll use 6.
Well, what I was going to say was on those OA vaporizers, you're maxed at 4 grams. And I don't know if they get to a point where they may change that label on that, if Rob himself would now change the plunger itself to be able to accept 6,
Rob does build those anyway. They're built in Hungary by Janos.
Yeah.
He
didn't
resells
know,
them. But
I didn't know if he did any of the assembly stuff here in the US or how that
I don't
works
think
now.
so.
But anyway.
I think
one of
you
our
probably
chat
be-
guys the other day said that he was running 6. He said he could actually screw it out 6. He said the spring gets a bit loose in there, but
Yeah.
he said that he was able to
That
get
was
6.
me.
Was that you, Charlie? I thought it was
Yeah.
somebody else. Okay.
No, I've got an applicator that ProVap came out with 2 years ago, and it doesn't have the markings like yours does, where you can put it in. There's like a little, what is it? Is there a little cutout or something in there?
Yep.
It doesn't
there's
have
a
that.
laser
It
number on it.
came in, and I jabbed it into the oxalic acid. I got my gram scale out, and it hit it. And I think it was set up as 4 grams. And then I just unscrewed the screw and the nut and backed the screw up about 1/4 of an inch. I kind of calculate. I figure, well, that's about right, and darn if it didn't come out exactly at 6. And I measured it out, and that's what I've been doing for years. Because what I did was you had the cap that you used to put the dipper thing in. And I had a dipper from an old pan model vaporizer. So I just would fill the cap up and kind of heap it up a little bit. And then I said, okay, well, let's heap it up like I would normally do it, and then dump it out on a paper plate that's been zeroed out on the gram scale. It happened to come out at 6 grams. So I said, well, just keep on. I mean, I just measured it out what I used to do at 6 grams. So I went ahead and put my plunger thing at 6 grams, and I'm good. Now that's my stuff is 3 mediums, which equals to me 2 double deeps.
2 deeps. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're looking at 3 grams and all. So it's working, I mean, and then if you go back, a little bit back in history, when they made it legal for the US at 1 gram, the Europeans already knew, as far as their science people, that it took 2.25 grams to be effective in the hive. So we were underdosing to begin with. So, and that's what they're trying to do now, is kind of catch the plate, after 10 years, try to catch up, on dosing and everything.
Brad, the 2 oxalic acid vaporizer tools that you're using, are both of those the compact units?
That's right.
Yeah. I had one of each. I had a full size and then a compact.
Yep.
A friend of mine recently purchased my larger unit off of me, and I think I'm just going to wait until Nobby, but I think I'm going to pick up another compact unit. I really like that. The size, it's easy to.
I like that compact.
Yeah, I just, the full size unit does have the board in the back, and you can adjust different parameters and such. But honestly, I don't really think there's any need to be playing with anything on there.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just like the size difference. There's just much less weight there. It's just, it's easier. So.
Janos explained to me kind of how the microprocessor in the compact worked, and yeah, it's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
There's no need to mess with it.
And that's
it's
kind of
actually a microprocessor in there. It's not just a timer or some thing. It's actually a processor inside that.
Yeah.
Did the friend that you sold that larger unit to, Tom, is he still your friend?
No, he doesn't like me anymore. He took that unit and tried to throw it at me. He said it weighed like a brick, and I ducked. So luckily, I told him it was a taillight warranty as I was driving off.
He's got a little horse trader in him, Brad. That's the reason I had to check him out.
Actually, the guy who bought it is the guy who bought your extractor from us too.
Yeah.
Oh, good deal. He's a smart fella.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? He paid me $2,000 for that thing.
That's good to know. You owe me.
So I got a little comment from Ian, and he's in the chat, I think, but he said Carrie was using the compact today too, and she said it's faster.
Yeah,
it's faster than the original. So
I feel like it is. I didn't time either one, but when I was using them side by side, I'm like, you know what? I'm like, that compact is actually like rebooting. It's not rebooting, of course, but for lack of a better term, it's rebooting much quicker. And I'm like, and I was able to then quickly just start one to the other.
Yeah.
When I had bought the original one, I did buy an extra. Oh, help me out here. What is the thing? The
plunger.
Plunger. Yeah, thank you. I did buy an extra plunger, so I can actually, even with using two, I can load up an extra plunger and set it on top. And
that's what I have.
Pop it in.
I have a third plunger just for that reason.
Are the plungers on the new one and the I've got the old one still. I haven't bought a small one, the lightweight jobby. Are the plungers are they the same on both of them?
Exactly the same.
I've got like 4 plungers.
Yeah, they're exactly the same. You don't need to get rid of that. Yeah. I thought it would be nice to have an extra
40 seconds. Every 40 seconds. Every 40 seconds, I was changing a vaporizer today. Yeah. Those things are fast.
Yeah.
And if you're only doing 2 grams, even if you're only doing 3 grams, perhaps, I wouldn't say it's a waste of money, but I wouldn't spend the money on a second one.
Yeah.
You get up to 4, you've got time, and you can start to really double up and get the production going.
So you're saying I shouldn't buy a third?
You're gonna buy a
third? Do you have your wife or something, Brad? Fill your plungers for you, or are you doing all that you got enough time to do all that? Or
I fill my own plungers, my friend. Thank you very much. Yeah. I don't think, Mike, using 4 grams, I don't think I could possibly increase production by having a third unit. Yeah. All I'd do is burn more battery because there'd be units waiting hot.
You remember when Bob Benny was talking about that? He had the two he was trying out for the first time, and he had 2 people out there with him, and he made a comment about something about going to have to try to get a routine going where the beekeepers aren't standing around waiting. And before the video was over, he was pretty certain that nobody had time to stand around and wait for anything because it goes fast.
Yeah. Yeah, I was hustling.
Was everybody waiting on those on the larger ones? Did you have the original one, Brad, before you went to these, or these your first ones?
I never had the Instant Vap original.
See, they got the sensor on them. And does everybody wait like Mike? Do you wait till yours goes back to the 420 before you?
Mine says at 445.
Yeah. Okay.
And I usually pull it about 130 and bring it over to the next hive and get the plunger. Yeah. I have 4 plungers and 2 of them, so I go put all 4 plungers full out and I put my jar on the next two. So as soon as one's done, I'll go over and reload them for the next two. And with 2.5 grams, I'm just about running from one to the next. But
See,
I went way past 4 on my thing, and I'm thinking I'm pushing 5.5 grams on my deep, and that's where I would like a third one because I don't like waiting.
I run a straight 4 on all my
bottom cover.
production hives. On my notes, I just do 3. But I'm not like Tom Sauceman. I don't have a Melissa to do everything for me, so that's the reason.
I know, it's ridiculous. I gotta do
I
everything.
do all that stuff by myself, so that's the reason I was asking.
Well, hey, I can do some horse trade and I could rent her out to you for the day. We'll have to talk about money.
He's already promised for you next spring, Melissa. You're going to come out and give me a 1-on-1 for a week. I'm splitting all my hives for me.
Melissa,
Yeah.
He said,
just referred to you both as a metaphorical horse and chattel.
I
You gonna
know.
take that?
hey, you know what? That old fella, he doesn't faze me. He doesn't faze me at all.
I didn't recognize him last night in the chat without his floaty.
I know, right?
Yeah. He finally made landfall, Big Mike.
Yeah, that was funny.
There's a question about the lights on the
So the honeybee compound here has a question said, is the light the same as the compact? The answer is no. The light is actually a newer version that they have just released. I believe it's been released, or maybe it's not being released until Nabi. It's basically a battery.
No,
with
it's released.
Yeah,
I'll have one in my hands within 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm interested to see what your feedback is on it, Brad.
Yeah, I'll try to do the best review I can.
Yeah,
on it.
well,
I won't be treating live, but I'll do some dry runs with it and show you how it works.
Absolutely.
Robbie put out a little, video about, hey, here's something new, type of thing. That was about all it was, a little advertisement. But as far as like you guys were saying about the extra applicators and stuff like that, I mean, when I had the ProVap, I got my generator and my cord, and I block up my front entrances with insulation, and I vape from the rear end of the hive. And like you say, by the time you take and leapfrog your entrance blocks and stuff like that, I mean, the thing is vaped and it's ready to be pulled out and stick into another hive and go again. So there's no I'm not normally standing around.
Mm-hmm.
I'm usually running, trying to keep up.
I was feeding a small nucleus colony yard. I think I had 18 nukes in there. I was feeding and treating at the same time. Actually, when I was feeding, this was about a week and a half ago. It was light rain here, and I was feeding, and most of my feeders are hive top, feeding and treating with oxalic acid vapor at the same time, just kind of working my way back. And I was running back and forth pretty quickly, trying to stay on it the entire time. So trying to be efficient because I was out there working by myself. Melissa hasn't been helping me out here too much in the bee yard the last few weeks. She's kind of slacked off on me, JW. So I think I burnt her out.
I've been doing making candles, and
she's been doing something. I'm not sure what though.
Straws.
Comment, chattel comment.
I've been doing all the stuff at the house that
Slacking
he doesn't
off
like to do.
I know.
Melissa, you're gonna have to get your own channel going before we can kick him out.
I know, right? All right, I'll kick him out now.
He probably does.
Joey, if she gets her own channel, you'll see me poking my head in from the side a little bit like this.
You'll just be in the chat giving her a hard time.
Yeah, definitely would be doing that. Definitely. That's right.
So we have that feed tank that he made, and most of our stuff is hive top feeders. So feeding is fairly easy to do by yourself. But Melanie, how sad.
No, it's okay. You're Melanie. You're still good.
We're not going to come visit next year now.
I'm still coming down. I'll still be there.
No, but so
if I remember right, when I went down there, Hey, if Dennis, I know Dennis is back there behind your name too. Hey, Dennis, who was that was helping you in the bee yard? Was it me or Melissa? I can't remember.
You are about to get kicked out tonight.
Ah,
No.
live black guys.
So, Tom, have you already made up the bed in the doghouse? So
Yeah.
you're good.
So he's sleeping out on the deck.
Brad, we don't even have a doghouse because we don't have the dog.
You better go and put one together.
I think so. I'll figure something
You know
out.
what?
Right?
We have an empty horizontal hive out in the back. You might be
There you go.
sleeping in that.
You'd have to twist me up pretty good to get me inside that thing. That's for sure.
No, but we've had a lot of events lately, so I've been making candles and lip balms and all that, which is stuff that he doesn't do.
No, I don't do that.
So I've been busy doing that while he's been out feeding the bees because, like I said, we have hive top feeders for most of our stuff, and with the feed tank that he has, it's doable to do it by yourself.
Oh yeah, it is.
Tom told me he thought maybe you might have flunked your test, so you probably have to be studying again.
I think so. So she didn't say JW. I went first, and I know I passed with flying colors, and but I'm not sure if she passed her master.
I did. I got a better
test.
score than you did.
I don't think so.
I did.
How'd you come up with that information?
And told me questions that you answered wrong that I answered right.
Oh, that's a lie. That is a lie.
So now you're paper certified?
Well, we don't have our master certification because you have to, to my knowledge anyway, all of the master programs require you to perform some sort of project or study or something of that nature before you get your actual.
We're master candidates. Is
correct.
What we are.
We're master candidates. We're not master certified. Or
I've
certified.
got that all planned out for you, Melissa. You're going to get to do all
So
your bee yards.
What program are you under then? What?
So Melissa and I were using, Missouri doesn't have one specifically, and I wish they did. And I don't know if I think Brian's still here in the chat.
You doing the Minnesota one?
No, it's Great Plains.
It's Great Plains. Great Plains Master Beekeeping. It's a newer program. It doesn't, I don't think quite has the clout like some of the other programs that have been around for a while.
Yeah.
They're still a work in progress on some of the stuff. And there's a lot of things I think that they need to make a little more difficult, if I'm being really honest here.
Okay.
You do have to do a lot of volunteer service hours and things, which has never been a problem, with Melissa and I's volunteering to our EMBA club, as well as the Missouri State, that we could max out on hours. That would never be a problem with that.
And
but
field hours,
we never have a problem. When you're managing over 150 colonies, field hours are never a problem. So that part's not a big deal. But I'll probably try to we have two different things in mind, but I'm still kind of open to ideas about the project for this next year. I'll probably try to complete that here this next year by the time this time rolls around. But I've been asking Brian Coper a little bit when they talked about the University of Florida. I've kind of had my eye on it for the last, about a year and a half or so. I think that I am considering, and I think Melissa's going to as well, go through that program as well.
After we finish this one.
I think that one, you have to actually work in a commercial area or something like that.
I'm not sure specifically. I didn't read that part of it. I could be wrong, but Brian there at Flower Street out in Colorado, those guys have got a phenomenal program with everything that they do. We had a lot of conversation about that specifically, and the state gets involved in it. And it's really a phenomenal program. And I honestly wish that Missouri State would do something very similar. We don't just want something that you can just slide through. We want to be challenged with everything, to make it worth the while, of course. So I don't know. I just felt like something.
The only thing I know is about EAS, which is around here a lot. And actually their convention was here in Baltimore this year. And a lot of EAS master beekeepers in our area, or a fair amount of them. And they got 4 different level tests. And basically it's not so much that you're going to not have any hives ever die because you're a master beekeeper. It's more of, well, you know, a little bit about everything within beekeeping, all the way from making mead to being a commercial beekeeper, but only a little bit of each. And that's pretty much it. To me, it's more of if you're going to be an instructor or something like that, it kind of gives you a little bit of a clout in that way.
Mhm.
That was
Well,
everything.
I believe that in that program, you also have to do a presentation or a couple of presentations.
You got four tests. You got a verbal test. You got a test where you have to identify things new and old.
Mhm.
You have to do a presentation like PowerPoint of some sort. And then you have your live where they take you out into the hives and you go through the hives and tell the instructor what you're seeing and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And that's, you got to pass all four tests.
Yeah, that was the master candidate field test was like that, where you have to, it gets a little more involved. You have to be able to identify brood diseases. And obviously you can't always replicate that inside of a hive when we're going through it. So that was more of a flashcard scenario on that one. But we also did have to go through a hive, and he beforehand would manipulate the hive and set it up wrong. You know how the bees would not normally set up a hive where maybe you had a double deep box. One of the boxes didn't need to be there, but he, like on one of them, he drug a frame of open brood up into it, but there was nothing else up there. So immediately when I tore into it, I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, I'm seeing a bunch of empty frames. I'm like, first of all, it's light if it's a double deep box, and I hadn't gotten into the bottom yet. There was one frame up there. There's no pollen. There was very little stores up there. I'm like, okay, you obviously manipulated this colony and pulled that one frame from the bottom up. So I'm like, we need to reduce it back down and, set it up to where the nest is in the center, where you got pollen on the outside, and then work our honey frames to the outside of that. So we had to manipulate a few hives and put them back, and then also go through some scenarios. He said, well, what if we were doing this? How would you set that up? Or how would you make it combine of a weak hive to a strong one? What would you do? So you ran through a lot of different scenarios. And then also he had some little test vials that had different pests in them, as well as some larvae and other brood that had issues. And you had to identify what was going on with that little test vial, which was good, because I always felt like the one thing that I'm always still lacking on just a little bit is some brood diseases. So that's something I need to work a little harder on and brush up on. But, like for instance, I don't imagine probably unless somebody runs a lot of colonies, most people probably haven't seen American foul brood. There may be people in here, because if you did, you would have burnt colonies, right? So, that one I think is a hard one to replicate. Some of the other ones might be a little bit more. You might see a little bit more. European foul brood, maybe you'll see that. A little bit more common. Chalk brood, things of that nature. But being able to identify those and be able to do it very quickly. A lot of times I'll take an assessment of something, and early this spring I had an issue where I had a little bit of chilled brood, and I mistakenly. I think I had said it. Well, I thought it was something else, and I sent it to Earl Hoffman, and he's the NES Master Certified Beekeeper. And I asked him, I said, "Is this such and such?" He said, "No, it's chilled brood." And I'm like,
"I thought it was chalk brood."
Yeah, I thought it was chalk brood. And I'm like, "It is?" He said, "Yeah." And then he explained in grave detail of why. And then I realized after he said that the larvae were in there, they were black on the ends because they were being chewed and pulled apart. And I didn't realize that at first. And so he pointed a few things out just on one picture. It was a good picture, but he was able to get me set straight. So that's one thing I feel like I need to work a little harder at, in those identifications. So that's something I'm going to continue to strive to get a little better at. So, but that's kind of my downfall on that one.
Joey, what's this little picture up here on the side? You know what that is? Or is that you? Or is that you got your head half cut off so you can't tell?
Oh, the frame? Yeah, that's me.
Okay.
Looking at a frame of bees.
That's where you put your label icon or whatever up there.
Oh, okay.
Instead of having the duck up there, you'd have that up there.
Yeah. Well, the duck said you're on the cheapy plan, the one that's free.
The
Right.
free.
I had to cut the top of my head off where it wouldn't.
It was
have a
overexposing
glare.
the shot.
I can understand.
Yeah.
Well, do they still have the free plan on StreamYard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Up to 6.
They don't have a free one on the Restream.
Yeah,
They got
they
the 2-month free. but
Yeah,
they don't
it's
have a
Is it 2 months free?
That's
Yeah.
what I saw.
Yeah.
2 months free if you get a year. If I read. Oh,
if I understood it correctly, you can get on for the like 6 for free for a while anyway. That's the way I interpreted it. But they want.
It
I
doesn't
think
say.
I've got 3 texts from them today after signing up last night for them, want me to expand, my program to the.
what's up, Brad from Cajun Homestead?
Says it's free. on
Not
Restream.
much.
I'll go look at it again. I probably misread it.
I don't know. I got 2 emails about it too, but I haven't sat down and looked
They
at it.
give you a lifetime 20% discount if you dump StreamYard.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, if these prices keep going up,
some dollars, I might just have to dump StreamYard.
I was just going to say, if those prices keep going up like you're talking about there, Brad, I'm pretty sure that StreamYard is going to do a pretty good job of
Killing themselves.
sending everybody else off the ship.
Yeah. Well,
What is $40 pay by month now for the cheapest plan? On
$44.99 is what they charge me. Is the cheapest non-free plan.
Yeah, the year payment plan for me, it's $36 a month. It went from was 25 month to month, and I went down to $20 a month being prepaid for 1 year. Now it's went from 20, it's more than
And
almost double.
I only subscribed so that I can have more than 6 guests, right?
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like, wow, that's because it was $65 Canadian. Kind of crazy.
I can get by with the free one with 6 or less because I've only got 4 friends. So.
You could, yeah.
So it don't make a difference.
Yeah, that happened quick. Everybody gets hearing about it.
Brad's going to start a new trend here. Everyone's going to jump ship.
They sent me an email a while ago. I looked back and I found it telling me it was going to go up, but I didn't read it. And then I got my credit cards and I looked, holy smokes, $44.99. What in the world?
Is StreamYard part of YouTube?
No.
Oh, okay. They're not owned by YouTube?
No.
Okay.
Well, who knows?
I was just saying,
It's probably owned by somebody in China, Brad.
if you cancel YouTube's StreamYard, they might cut your subscribers.
Yeah, who knows? No, I don't think they're related.
Brian says StreamYard, and they're going to lose all their customers. I don't know.
Who?
Oh, Brian there, Kodiak was.
Lee.
We will see. We will see. And maybe there'd be a problem come up with Restream. I don't know. I just use the one time. So seems to be all right.
It looked like it was doing the job, right?
Yeah.
That background is pretty too.
It is.
Yeah, that's the default. Is really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty good.
You would talk about that on I don't know what I did, to be honest with you. I had the chats on your screen, and also I had this, and they were running directly side to side with the YouTube
Big mate to go up.
chat screen for me, on
Our logo usually does.
when I was watching you all.
Don't everybody talk about it. I got nothing to report. This is fall. There's away, and that's about it going on here. Another
Brad, when do you typically put your bees up in the shed?
yeah, I was just kind of going to say that a couple of weeks maybe.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's look at the forecast, and I'll tell you. Want to wait till it gets a little bit colder.
How many you leaving outside?
Yeah, I still don't really have a firm number on that. I mean, it's set in stone, but I didn't count them. There's about 35 or so.
It's basically what won't fit. Is that what you're doing?
No, it's the doubles. It's whatever I put in a double, which is about 35.
You got them all packed out with food?
Packed as I can pack them. Yeah.
Brad, do you guys ever try to overwinter any nucleus colonies like 5-frame or 5-on-5?
Oh yeah, yeah. Lots of people winter those.
And that's doable for you all?
Yeah, I think Ian does a bunch of them.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, he's got a bunch of 5s.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I mean, indoors you can do that pretty easily.
Okay.
So I'm just looking at the extended forecast, and there is no temperature in November that I would not leave them out in. So it looks like it's going to be warm.
Mm-hmm. You leave them out as long as possible, so if they get flight, they get flight?
No, I don't want them to fly. I leave them out so they don't overheat in the building because I can't cool my building.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
If it gets warm outside, then I can't cool it. So by this, I'm going to move them in on the 3rd of December. I'm pretty sure that'll change, but that's what it said. I just kind of look at -10. If I have a temperature below -10 at night, then that's my day. I'll bring them in.
So what you're saying is when you put them in the shed, you don't have any ventilation, similar to what Ian is using, where he just has those fans?
Well, I have ventilation,
but
I have no refrigeration. So if it gets warm outside, I can't cool it. I'm just using air.
You can draw cold air from outside in through the shed to keep them cooled down because the heat cluster that they're putting off that extra heat. But
that's right.
You cannot refrigerate it. So if they heat up that inside area because of the ambient air outside is too warm, now you have a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Understood.
And typically
Ian's getting air put in his.
He's getting a refrigeration put in this week, I think.
Wow.
Let's put the chiller in.
So do I trust the forecast? No, of course I don't. Forecasters can't tell you what the weather was yesterday half the time. But typically with the number of bees that I put in my building, and there might be a bit fewer in the building this year because I'm doing some outside. The equilibrium temperature outside is about -10. So what that means is when the outside temperature is above -10, I'm talking C here, then I have to cool the building. But when the temperature starts dropping below -10, then I have to add heat to keep the temperature up to 4. So that's typically what I find with my building. It just sheds heat with, that kind of regularity.
So 4 Celsius would be about 39 degrees Fahrenheit then. So you're looking at not far above freezing.
40, yeah.
We're looking at 40-ish degrees.
Very close.
Or you said
-10 is 14.
So it's really about the temperature of your refrigerator in your house. That's about what those run, maybe 3 degrees or so, 3 or 4 degrees. And I would rather... Yes, sir.
Go ahead. I'll ask you in a minute.
I was just going to say, I'd rather it be a little colder than warmer because the metabolic rate for the bees, as it gets colder, the metabolic rate goes up fairly slowly. Above 4 degrees, the metabolic rate goes up very quickly.
I see.
So I want, if I'm going to air off 4 degrees, I'll air on the low side. But I also don't want my building to freeze, so it's pretty tight margin.
Yeah, I got you.
Because I have water in there.
Keep them just cold enough there that they're going to stay clustered pretty tight.
Yeah.
Not chew through a bunch of food and slow them down, their metabolism down a little bit.
That's right. That's right.
Makes sense.
What's up, Joey?
Don't you or didn't you used to do refrigeration?
Never.
Okay. I
No. That's
You did
big
have
money.
you had an air conditioner, didn't you, Brad?
We'll have an air conditioner in there, but that's a
Yeah.
different dog. Yeah, air conditioner won't help you below 15C or so.
I used to do air conditioning, refrigeration, and one of
Oh,
the running jokes that we always had when people would say, 32 degrees, the water's gonna freeze. Well, to an air conditioned man, you're not cooling a room; you're removing heat,
that's right. It's
and
just pumping heat.
that's really what you are. You're removing heat.
Right.
But we always had that joke about people saying at 32 degrees. We say no, ice melts at 32 degrees.
Yeah. Yeah.
That used to always be our argument.
Yeah.
But if you look up the melting point of ice, it says 32. If you look up the freezing point of water, it says 32. Because both of them's right.
That's right.
Because either way, one thing or the other is going to happen at that point.
Yeah.
We've always called it the melting point of ice
It's kind of
in
kind of
refrigeration.
odd to think of that. But I thought a couple of years ago, I was working my bees in the fall, and I was thinking about this and thinking, what do these temperatures mean to the bees? And that kind of an idea where water freezes and whatnot, that means a lot to us. That means a lot to people, right? Because it affects our lives.
Mhm.
Driving around, you get ice on the road, and
Mhm.
you get ice on the walk, and maybe it'll snow if it's below freezing, that sort of thing. Whereas the bees, that that number doesn't mean a thing to the bees, not an absolute thing to the bees. The thing that means something to the bees is 5 to 8 degrees above that, and that's the temperature where they're going to start to bring into that cluster.
Mhm.
And then of course above that, then they've got the temperatures where they'll actually fly. But those are variable too, depending on how warm the sun is. And I've seen bees fly at 6 degrees C if it's a hot sun. But that temperature where they cluster and where they break cluster, that's the meaningful part to bees. Once you get below that and they cluster, going deeper than that really is only going to make them eat more food to stay warm. That's really all it means to them.
So would you ideally want to keep that at about 5 to 6C? Is that what you're thinking?
The building?
Correct.
4.
4. You want 4. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm using my conversion here so I can understand what that
40.
means.
40F.
Yep. Gotcha.
Yeah. That's what the science tells us. They say that that's the bottom of the metabolic rate, and that's what you're going for.
Okay.
The least amount of feed consumption. And that's the nice thing about wintering indoors. Is people say to me all the time, they say, "Oh, it was a hard winter. Was it hard on the bees?" No. My bees were 4 degrees all winter.
Yeah. It keeps them
wasn't hard on
consistent.
bees at all. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, DC's saying the range that I was talking about is his winters. So that's why DC's bees die, because they're always going through that cluster break cluster, and that's really hard on the bees, in my opinion. That's really hard on the bees. You can keep them above that, you keep them below that. That's far better for them. And that's why I think, I've been watching people down south, and when you become a beekeeper or something and you kind of think, well, I'm a beekeeper in Manitoba, could be a thing harder than that. And you see people in Florida, in a Florida winter, losing bees, you think, what in the world? It's got to be easy. Well, it isn't. It's easy here because it goes cold and stays cold. Whereas in the South States, Florida, etc., you may get those winter storms and you may get sub-zero temperatures, sub-zero C temperatures, and you may get that crossing over that clustering temperature over and over again. That's going to kill your bees. Whereas my bees, they're just cold. They don't care. It's the same all the time.
As long as you have the feed on them and they've got plenty of stores and they're healthy, they'll winter.
Yeah, yeah. It's stressful though, you know,
And dry.
and dry, and that's DC also deals with that. It's very moist, humid where DC is in the Pacific Northwest.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Brad, can you go away in the winter at all, or do you have to be there to monitor your shed?
No, I have some rudimentary monitors that I can see the temperature of my shed, and I can get alerts if the temperature changes outside whatever thresholds I set. So, yeah, I don't need to be here. I mean, I don't go anywhere, but you
No,
know,
so you could go on a vacation.
oh sure, yeah. You know what happens though? You go on vacation and the power goes out for a week.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
So I have is exactly what I have. And again, I'm not that concerned about the heat going out in the building, except I have water system in there, you know, but I do drain it and flush it out or blow it out with stuff. But I'm more concerned with ventilation. So I have my generator on standby and I have my ventilation system ready to hook up to the generator, and you know, I can open the doors at night and let the building cool off, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's getting too hot in there is the worry, not
Yeah.
too cold
I
at
got
all.
you.
Yeah,
See
it's
what
certainly
Lee
a
said
different.
there? 6 days of winter.
What's that?
See what Lee said right there? 6 days of winter down
Yeah.
here in Louisiana.
Yeah, all week.
Yeah. But the thing is, it may be 45-ish, 50, and then get those days where or nights where it'll drop down uh, below freezing, and they don't really have time to cluster up right. And then midday the next day, it's going to warm right back up, and they're going to fly again.
Yeah.
And then the next night do the same thing. You might get two days in a row. But
See, what I've observed is
it's
that
up
the
and
bees
down here.
they don't actually adjust to changing ambient conditions very quickly. I mean,
Yeah.
not very quickly at all. It takes them days to adjust to that.
Mm-hmm.
For example, here's an example. I'll leave my bees outside until it's about -10 at night. So the day that I'm moving them indoors, it might be 0. It could be a couple of degrees below 0. And so the bees sitting outside, they're kind of set themselves up for those sorts of temperatures. They've got that going on. They've got that regulated. Well, I take all those bees and I put them in my building and I close the door. My ventilation fan goes on high for 3 or 4 days because all of those hives have set themselves up to produce X amount of heat to stay warm. Not wrapped, outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're indoors and things start to warm up. They're in closer proximity, they're in a closed space, et cetera, et cetera. So now they're producing way too much heat and they continue to do so for a number of days. It takes them a long time to adjust to that and say, okay, we can relax, we don't have to work so hard, and then they can settle in. And it, you know, they'll sit in there for a week before you can go in there and you can tell that they're just okay, they're finally settling in here into that constant 4 degrees. And I think that consistent 4 degrees, I think they really like that.
Yeah.
They just don't have to adjust to anything at all.
See, that's interesting that you tell me that because I've never heard anybody speak of that before. You know, you all see some a little more extreme temperatures there up in the north than what I would hear in the Midwest, but I had never really heard anybody speak toward that, talking about how the bees, they don't just adjust on the fly. It's not like, oh, it's getting cold, let's go ahead and put on the sweaters, right?
Yeah.
You're saying that this is a process that happens and they're heating that comb up. The heater bees are heads down inside the cells, heating that comb up, you know, around that cluster there. And you're saying that takes a minute for that process to happen. And they don't just, like an air conditioner here, flip the switch off and on, you know, just to do their thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the cluster temperature, you know, even if it's, say it's 0 C, the cluster temperature is still going to be 26 C or better.
Yeah.
So that's a big spread. And if you take that and then you put it in a different environment, that little core is still hot. And they, you know, don't just change like that. We have also another example of that is snow cover. and Mike and I were talking about this, where if you winter your bees outdoors, and this is what I'm going to try to accomplish this year, you put them in a place where you're going to get a lot of snow cover. You get by a tree row, you get a big snow bank by a tree row. Get those hives covered. Get them right covered up with snow, because that does a bunch of things for you. It eliminates solar gain. So the sun does not heat the hives, so you have no fluctuations, 24-hour fluctuations. You have no wind chill on that hive. Snow is an excellent insulator. The bees will melt out an igloo around that hive. So if you dig down in there, there's going to be no snow about 4 inches around that hive in all places.
Okay.
And so they create their own little cavity environment in there. And so the one thing that's a major contributor to that environment is the ground. And the ground doesn't change temperature very quickly at all. So the ground is the big heat sink. There we go again.
Or the big cat.
So the ground is the big heat sink that moderates that whole thing. If it gets really cold out, then the ground is going to moderate the effect of in that igloo around that hive. The bees that get covered in the snow here, and if they're covered in the snow right until the 1st of May, those are your best bees.
Yeah.
It's really amazing because you're losing your mind. You're thinking, oh my God, my bees are in a 6 feet of snow. And then when they come out, you get to, into May and the 1st of June, and you realize these are the best bees I have. These are great. Yeah.
They've been stayed at that consistent level.
Yep.
So I think it was when, I know Sawmill Charlie talks about it a couple different times, and he recently had Bill Heschbach on their greater Baltimore beekeepers or what have you. And he had, I think it was last year, gave a presentation through Zoom for our club as well. And I believe it was him who mentioned, and it was about that time that I heard it, and I thought it was him that mentioned it, that we view the oxygen level inside of an area much like what humans can tolerate, or the amount of oxygen that we need to survive and thrive. And we kind of portray that on the bees, meaning, we think that they need to have that same oxygen level, and that's not the case. I don't remember now what he had said specifically on it, but they don't need to have that same oxygen level. So if they're encompassed in that igloo of snow, that kind of puts them a little bit more to sleep, and then they end up eating less stores on that.
Snow is extremely porous, though, so they can be buried in snow, and it certainly doesn't change it that much.
Yeah.
Snow is quite porous. Like if you get buried in an avalanche, you're not going to suffocate because there's air. Yeah,
It's
you're right.
the CO2 levels, when they increase, it puts the bees into a metabolic state where it's like they're almost hibernating, I guess would be the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
And it kills mites too.
It kills mites. Yes, anthropomorphizing bees is not what you want to do, for all of those reasons, right? The meaningfulness of the 0 degree, the freezing temperature, all of those things, that's anthropomorphizing, and you're not thinking about the bees, you're thinking about people. Why do you insulate a hive? Well, it's so they don't eat so much. That's why.
Yeah.
It's not to keep them warm. Maybe insulate to keep them cool.
Yeah.
And then, even Hirschbeck said it. He said there's no solar gain on the tar paper. He said it's more of a wind break than anything else. But what was interesting is Brad is what's the science fellow's name? That's kind of like the Randy Oliver or Canada.
Which science fella?
Oh, the one
What
he
does
was.
he speak on?
He's your local science guru there. I think he's retired now.
Oh, Dr. Robert Curry.
Curry, yeah.
Yeah.
Where, like, something that you don't hear it in the States is the fact that you don't want your bees flying, because if they fly, they're speeding up their dying rate, I'll say, or their metabolism.
Well, that's Lloyd Harris's work that you can see a lot of Lloyd Harris's data on Randy Oliver's site. Randy takes it apart and kind of presents it in ways to, speak about different topics.
Yeah, but
that you can understand
it goes hand in hand of what we just said
Yeah.
about 4C. They
Yep.
are in hibernation, I'm going to call it. We all understand that. At 4C, constant 4C until spring, their aging process more or less comes to almost a dramatic stop.
Flight
To a certain-
caused, yeah.
Yeah,
Flight.
but if
It's
they
the juvenile
fly,
hormone.
it
It's the production
it
of juvenile
it's
hormone that
yeah,
makes
they're
them age. The production of
Yeah.
juvenile hormone makes them age, and flight causes the production of juvenile hormone. So once the temperature here is cold enough that they're not flying, then they practically stop aging. They age very, very, very slowly. Their age, Lloyd's data, you can see they're dying like this. Their age is they're coming down like this, and then the temperature changes, and it almost flattens out instantly. Their age. Keep your hands to yourself, okay? So, and I asked Lloyd when he was showing me that data. I said, that point where it changes, that's temperature, isn't it? And he said, yeah, that is. That's the temperature, which means no flight, which means no juvenile
That's
hormone.
interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe we all need to go outside and lay in the snow for the winter so we don't age as much, because that beekeeping season basically takes our aging times 2.
You're anthropomorphizing now. But that's why a lot of these people, they're putting bees in these big refrigerated sheds now to keep them, and they only keep them there for 2 or 3 months before they go to almonds or something like that. So they're catching on to that, and they're saying that they can get those things in the building, turn that refrigeration down and cool them off, and they can just kind of lock them in and put them in stasis for a couple of months. And I was talking to Ian about his refrigeration today, and he's pretty excited about it. I told him, I said, you get that refrigeration, you put them in there Thanksgiving weekend, which in our country is second Monday in October, and you turn that thing on, and then you just leave because they're good.
See, when you say that, it kind of it baffles me a little bit, because I think about it, I'm like, why on God's green earth would somebody in Canada want to put a refrigerator system in a building and run it in the winter? Are these guys mad right now? But there's a process to that, obviously. Otherwise, you wouldn't spend the money on it.
Well, shoulder seasons, right? Like, you're asking, well, when do we put the bees in? Well, I wait till it's about -10 outside. Well, why did I choose that? And I just chose that because I'm anthropomorphizing, right? Science didn't tell me that. I find that they're fine. -10 doesn't bother them. I've had them outside -15. It doesn't really bother them.
Yeah.
But that kind of temperature means that it's not too cold to be outside, but it's also not too warm to be inside during the day, because the temperature is going to go up a lot during the day, and I need to be able to cool a building. So it's cold enough that, I've got that margin where they can still be outside for a few more days, but I can move them in, and it's still cold enough for me to keep the temperature in the building down. So there's a bit of a margin of a few days, maybe a week.
Yeah.
And there's got to be, because it takes Ian a week to move his bees in. So it can't be just one day like me.
Yeah.
I've never heard that one.
I mean, that's like Ian, was it a year or two ago? He was having issues of trying to keep it cool because it was kind of warm on the outside. And then he was talking about how he was going to try to cross ventilate, I'll say. And I'll say air conditioning people said, no, you want to put fans on this side and push it through his rows of hives. And that's what he did. He put those box fans in.
Yeah, he was getting hot spots in the center.
Yeah, it was hot spots. He said in order to move that, to get that, instead of the fans being upstairs, it didn't do what he thought it was going to do.
Yeah, he fixed that problem. So yeah, shoulder season, especially in the spring, I think it's going to do a lot more for him in the spring because um, I always say that every fall wintering indoors seems like a really great idea, and every spring it seems like a really bad idea. And, and that's because it's a difficult time in the spring because our daytime temperatures can still be going up to 15°C
Yeah.
in the daytime and then still going down quite low at night. And the problem I have is, do I take these, you know, they're not the greatest looking colonies because they've been inside and they've been in the hive for 6 months, kind of thing. Do I
Mhm.
take those little clusters outside, uh, not wrapped, not insulated, nothing? Do I take them outside into a cold environment, make them adjust to that, make them live in that?
Mhm.
Or do I keep them in this building that's actually getting a bit too warm for them? Um, what do I do? And I asked Lloyd that, and he just didn't even hesitate. He said, leave them inside. So
Hmm.
maybe I need to be more confident with leaving them in the building in the spring. But that's where the refrigeration will really come in useful because Ian can leave those bees in
Mhm.
until, middle April if he wants.
Yeah. And basically until they're about ready to fly.
Literally keep them on ice.
Probably
Yeah.
the only concern I guess you would have, and I think he overwinters mainly on sucrose or maybe high fructose. I'm not sure, but
Right.
not letting them have that honey that they would normally
Yeah.
get from a fall flow,
Not
which could
honey.
be detrimental and cause that the gut issues.
Yeah.
Purge all that from their system so that way they can basically, contain themselves and not have to relieve themselves where they're going to, and I know he shows some of that on the videos that he posts.
That's
from there.
key. That's key to keeping them in that hive for 6
Yeah.
months is
It's
pure
sucrose.
feed.
Yeah.
Just very clean, not honey. And that goes against what so many people want to believe that, oh no, they should have, well, it's not natural.
Yeah.
It's not natural to have honeybees in Manitoba.
Well, I had a guy argue. Well, he wouldn't really argue. He had said to me, he said there was some black on the front of one of the colonies, and it actually had nothing to do with what he was saying. He said you feed your bees too much, and it was out of the blue that this guy spouted that off, and I'm like I'm sorry, I'm not following what you're saying. He said you feed your bees. He goes the black on there. I said no, the black is from something else. I said those are wax dip boxes actually, and I said it's not from that. And he's seen a little bit of a dark entrance. And he said, and then so he kind of started in, and I'm like, well, I'm not really interested in debating it with you. If I'm really being honest, I have my thoughts, and I'm not looking to change your mind either. Anyway, he said to me, one thing he said, he goes, it's unnatural. And I'm like, if you want to start talking about unnatural, first of all, honeybees on this continent, that's not natural. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing we'll go into is you've put them in a 3/4 inch pine box. That's not natural.
Set them on the ground.
You set them on the ground.
None of that's natural.
You're using a wooden frame or with the plastic. I'm like, how far do you want me to go with this? I'm like, if you're going to talk about natural, everything we do to manage the way that we need to be able to manage a honeybee colony, it's
then
all unnatural,
If you want to do it all natural, don't.
Right.
Because anything you do is going to be unnatural.
That's right.
Right. So you've got to decide how far you're going to take it.
Yeah.
If you want to take it to the logical conclusion about not interfering and not doing anything unnatural, then don't keep bees.
That's right. Yeah.
Just look at them in nature. Oh, look, there's some bees. Those are my bees. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we do the best that we can with what information that we've got, and I think we've come pretty far understanding honeybees and what we can do with them, and the limits that we can push, and different issues that obviously arise that are kind of out of our control. Well, probably to start with our control, meaning like a Varroa mite would have never landed here if we didn't have commerce between continents, right? You would have never gotten the Varroa mite to jump across that big pond to get here, but nevertheless, here we are. So,
Hive beetles,
Asian
hornets.
Yeah. all that fun stuff that comes from China, basically, you know, over in that direction.
Let's not go there. Oh, I'm willing, but let's not do it.
I understand. Yeah. We all understand what happens.
Yep,
Yeah, they ruin the hive tools, don't they, Brad?
that's right. I was just going to bring up hive tools, Mike.
So, you know, the wintering, you know, when I first started, I was like, every time we got a big storm, I'd wade out through that snow and clear the landing boards off so they could breathe.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, but every time you went out there, you know, there was a big cavity.
Yeah,
I stopped doing it, and then, you know, I tried to tell people you don't have to clean your landing boards off.
yeah.
They'll take care of it.
There she comes.
No, we're coming this way. We're going this way.
Yeah, last December, you know, normally our bees don't fly in December. Usually, a lot of times, not even in November. We had 6 days they flew
Get
in
out.
December, and then every month it was a couple days.
Yes, it doesn't want it.
That's like I was listening to a recorded chat before this one came on, and with the Utah bee man out there in Utah, and it was well, they hit on a lot of beginner points and stuff. This one guy was wanting to know whether or not to give water to her bees in the wintertime and stuff. And it's just like Mike says, if you let the snow lay there, the heat from the hive will melt it, and in turn they have fresh water right at the entrance if they need it, and all and stuff like that, which, you know, that's what they were talking about, where the guy said not to worry about it. You know, there's enough water and honey itself to help them out. But
Do you ever fall asleep, Brad?
Actually, no. Oddly enough,
he does that during the daytime, right?
anytime I sit here, he's going to climb up on me. That's okay. I'm enjoying every minute of this guy's life that I can enjoy, because could end any time now.
All right, I got my problem. I've got a tub of Apricot. It's never been open, and it's already a month old. It'll be 8 or 9 months old if I open it up. Let's say next June or July. Let's say next July. Do you think it'll, because it's never ever been open, you think it's gone bad, or does anybody really know?
I don't know what the manufacturers say.
Well, they're going to tell you, so, you know, go buy another tub. You know, the only thing I can think of is if the seals are all there, it's never been the seal's never been broken.
From what I heard, that one of the guys say, if you open it up and it's still liquidy, it's good. If it has dry crystals in it, it's bad.
Mm.
Guess
That's
you'll
what I
find out in
I
9
would
months.
say. You know, like you said, they all say to sit there and mix it before you use it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And Brad, you've used it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And where you've mixed it where it might have had some dry crystals here and there, and it got it all back to moist, wet substance.
No, mine didn't have any. I mean, they were fairly new. I mean,
New one, yeah.
Yeah, when I got them, they still had a long time before the expiration date. But I know once I opened it and it got exposed, the next time I went to use it, I had to stir it because I did have some dry stuff on the top
Rim, yeah.
when I mixed it in. And that's mainly so you could suck it up in the
It's
syringe,
9
because if you leave the crystals too chunky, it stops up the syringe.
Yeah.
Right.
Once you get them moistened again, it's easy to suck up.
Right.
Tom, you might know the answer to that one.
He's saying they're doing okay. They got everything back to semi-normal.
Yeah, I thought they did. I wasn't
Yeah,
sure.
they got their electric. They're back. I think back to work as far as I know.
Yeah, I think he was going back. Yeah, I don't know. The last I had heard when I talked to him, I don't know if school had started back up in his area or not. I think that was still out at that point, but I believe Ricky was working again, and he did have electric at his house. You know, a lot of the infrastructure is going to be destroyed in some of those areas for years. You know,
Right.
but I think if they can get some sort of primitive roadways going on in those areas and such, that'll be the main.
I do know that I got a notice. I don't know why, but that Appalachian College, which is the main, I'm gonna say it's the main drive of Boone, North Carolina, in that city, that's the main money income area, and they went back to classes this
That's
week.
good.
And they were also, I've seen videos where I'll say the student housing, and you had the cars in the parking lot where the water was up to the windows, you know, when the flood was hitting and stuff like that. Now I was just wondering, because I know Hilco's got their deals on, and they got a tub at $130. But also, if I buy before the end of the year, I can get another $20 knocked off because I participated in their free giveaway thing.
Oh,
So
yeah.
now I'm down to $110
Mhm.
instead of 160. So maybe it's worth spending the extra. I know that the expiration date is 2 years, I think, on that tub.
Mhm. Yeah, I've already planned to buy a few tubs from him. We were talking about what we were going to be needing for this year, and that was one. I have one mostly full tub here, so I'll need 3 more to cover mine.
How much was his tubs going to be?
130.
Oh, 130. Yeah, that's what he had them for at our Bee Expo.
I think last year at the expo, I think they were 120 or one. I want to say I might have been 119 if I remember right. So they went up just a little bit.
But one thing I learned this year at the expo was that, number one, you want to prepay, you cut out the 6% sales tax, plus you get a discount, plus you get, you know, you're picking it up and you're saving on shipping. So you're saving quite a bit of money.
That's right. Plan ahead, buy ahead. Doesn't mean you have to buy all kinds of equipment, but if you need some consumables that you need for the next year, that'll be the time to get it.
We have our Christmas list.
Melissa and I have already been working on not even anything interesting, you know, equipment wise, but looking at glassware. Going to need some more Oxalic acid. What do you say? Wax.
Dipping wax.
Oh yeah, we need a couple boxes of wax dipping wax for the equipment, all that good stuff. So we're going to be buying all that here shortly.
Brad, you want me to order your queen excluders?
Brad, me or Brad Cage?
Yeah. Well, you're the one that you said you need to get more metal ones. They're $650.
Oh, well, $650 US. Then get them here somehow. No thanks. I appreciate it, but
it'll be another
those costs.
It'll be another $650 a piece to get them to you.
They increase pretty fast. Yeah, they're heavy, and then you know there's import taxes and duties and stuff. So, for the amount I might save, it's more of a sure thing just to get them from my guy at the store.
Hey, Brad, you said that
Anyway,
you deal with Dancing Bee pretty often.
Yeah, I deal with them a lot.
Yeah. Melissa and I have our eye on something from them to do with candle making, actually. And specifically a tank, a small one. It's only like 3.5 gallons for wax, and you could pour candles out of that and such. You know, we had a discussion a couple different chats ago. And I think Todd was in on that, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, and I think I asked you about that. If you knew you said you knew the company well, and they're a good company to deal with.
Yeah. I talk to the owner down east once in a while. I know the guy here pretty good. I think they're the largest bee supply in Canada.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they're not a small outfit.
Okay.
If you called Mike at Dancing Bee Manitoba, he's really helpful. He probably would know the equipment you're talking about.
Yeah, I had sent a couple of emails back and forth actually with them,
Okay.
and I wasn't dealing with Mike.
It was a lady.
It was a lady, and her name was. Give me a second, I'll tell you.
Second up.
Misty Roberts.
Yeah. So she'll be at the head office down near Toronto.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know her.
She was the one I had correspondence with.
She doesn't have you on a timer there.
Yeah.
I just remember when I started my first year, I ended up getting quite a bit of honey in my hives, and my local supplier, Dancing Bee, didn't have a local store at that time. They had nothing for me for extractors, even though I'd asked them that months before. Are you going to have extractors in August if I need? Oh yeah. No. And so from their parking lot, I phoned Dancing Bee, and the owner answered the phone. So I got to know Todd a little bit right then and there. And so he sent me up a nice little 918 Man Lake extractor that I used for a few years.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. Took care of me right then and there.
That's awesome. That's what you want to see, right?
Yeah, it's a good price too. I can't complain about the price.
Good.
It's a good price. Shipped it up just a few days. It was here, and I picked it up at the dock.
So they have a couple stores there in Canada.
Yeah, I don't know how many stores. They just opened the one here in, I'm gonna say Winnipeg. It's not in the city though. I can't remember what year they opened it. It was maybe 5 years ago or so.
Mm-hmm.
But their head office is in Port Hope, Ontario.
Good. Yeah, it's nice to be able to deal with the company, and I realized they didn't have anything on there about warranty or what have you. And he's like, well, there's not really a lot to warranty. And I'm like, well, I understand that, but I'm also ordering a product that's not anywhere close to me either. And I don't want to have any issues or just want to understand what that looks like. So they kind of walked me through it and helped me understand.
Is it a kind of a unique product that isn't available more locally to you?
Well, there are some.
Just not that size of a tank.
I'm looking for a smaller size, so I don't want a large 8-gallon tank for working candles out of. I wanted something small that I can put on a countertop. We have a little workshop downstairs, and I wanted to have something that'll fit on my countertop between the cabinets down there. And this one is like 3.5 gallons. So, and the price was right on it. It's I could find a Chinese version much cheaper, but I'm not really looking to buy from them, honestly. I'd like to buy something kind of like to buy once, cry once, I'd like to buy it and, have it until I'm dead, basically. I may have to do a little maintenance to it possibly, but I don't want to buy it again. So
nothing wrong with buying good tools. But if you get good tools,
that's right.
Right. This vaporizer is a perfect example. When I started using it, I totally fell in love with it. It's an awesome unit. And I was probably an hour into it, and I messaged Mike and said, "Mike, you got another one of these?" Yeah, I got it. I'll come over tomorrow. I said,
"That's great."
So good tools, right?
That wax melter, I may have seen one at Maxant the other day when I was there.
Yeah,
have you checked it?
I did look at the one that Maxant had. It's a little more costly. And I do like Maxant stuff. I've got I've got 3 of their tanks here, and I actually acquired a used pump of theirs as well as a filter system here recently. So I actually paid up a little more to get Maxant from the data ones that I'd had previously, but it was not quite what I was looking for specifically. And this one here was priced a little better, but it looked like it had a good quality to it. So that's why I wanted to inquire a little bit more with the company. And then Brad kind of backed him up and said, yeah, they do good business. So
because I know they will be at the expo.
Yeah. Yeah, I really do like their stuff. Max Santa's got, I've never been to their location up there. I believe that's in New York. Is that right?
No, it's in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Thank you. I'm sorry. Yeah. I knew it was Northeast.
It's 42 minutes from my house.
Oh, wow. You're close then.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had a bit of a rough go, it seemed like, right around COVID, because you couldn't, I was trying to get at least 1 or 2 tanks then. I mean, even their supplier or their distributors of their products here, they quit returning the emails and phone calls and everything else.
They couldn't get any supplies in.
Yeah, I'm sure they were pretty overwhelmed. There was a lot of chatter wondering if they were even gonna hang in there and stick it out through all that trying time. But I'm glad that they did. I really am. I'm saying they really make some good quality equipment.
Their equipment's solid.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah. Same
the
thing
Hive
like
tools.
with that. Yeah. Just like with those tanks, buy once, cry once. I don't have any reason to. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that thing better last me past me and somebody else.
Well, the only other thing I think I have, Max, in is that wax spinner, the senior wax spinner.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's pretty robust. There's some assembly and design goofs about it that it's kind of weird, but
Mhm.
it does the job and it's rock solid. The thing weighs about 250 pounds.
Oh wow.
It's just a beast,
Yeah.
and I can't complain that way.
So
They
that's
let a
interesting.
blind chimpanzee weld the outlet on it, though. It was just, I mean, I could weld better than that, and I'm a terrible welder.
Not good then, right?
No,
Especially
it's
for the
that
price
part.
point.
It's like, what are you guys doing? Yeah, it's over $6,000 US, and this is what
Yeah.
you're doing.
So tell me a little bit about that machine, if you don't mind taking a minute to go over
Yeah.
that, because that was one of the things we were considering, a wax processing machine this next coming year at Nobby. And what I did is I went ahead and tabled it for the moment. I said, I don't just want to buy something to have it. I want to make sure that's what I'm looking for. And I was considering the Lyson extruder that goes along with my system, but it's pretty good chunk of change. And we decided that we're going to go ahead and table it for now and consider deal with our wax processing. It's a little more time consuming, but
Yeah.
I have looked at that one before in the past too. So what's your experience with that?
I've used an extruder, so I
Okay.
can compare that as well. The thing that I didn't like about the extruder was if your cappings are fluffy, and this might be only me because the way I process things, I'll put all my cappings into my big wax melter, and then I'll warm them and I'll melt it, warm it up, and that'll lower the viscosity of the honey dramatically, and I can get a lot of honey out of those cappings.
Okay.
Once you run that through an extruder, the honey gets really encapsulated into that wax because it's so compactly pressed.
Okay.
And you have to melt the wax to get the honey out, and then you're going to have darkened the honey, which is not the end of the world. There's a lot of times you can find a market for that, but that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha.
And I don't know that extruder gets even as much honey out of that wax as a spinner does.
Okay. Yeah. Good to know.
So mine sits right under my cow and uncapper. It is a unorthodox kind of an arrangement, but it works well.
Sure.
So the uncapper falls right out of the uncapper into the spinner, and it's pretty trouble free. It doesn't get out of balance very often, and if it does get out of balance, it quite often rights itself because the out of balance weight is the honey. So once the honey makes its way through the screen, it's not out of balance anymore because the wax isn't that heavy. And I can uncap a day of my extracting into there, and then I have to take the lid off and scrape it out and lift the wax out. I put it in 5-gallon pails. I don't pack it super tight, but I do kind of pack it a little bit into those pails, and I'll get about 7 gallons of volume out of that spinner after a day's extracting.
Mhm.
This year I ended up with about 16 pails, I think,
Okay.
of wax.
Yeah.
And out of that, I think I got 5 pails of honey out of that 16 pails of wax.
Wow.
So it's just less than a third
Sure.
by volume.
And that's 5 more pails that you wouldn't have to send to like a baker, right? As baker's grade if you were to heat it.
Well, I do have a very limited market for that honey, so I get impatient and I just go ahead and melt the wax and
Okay.
pour it off. So it is darkened. I
Okay.
don't have to do that, but it takes a lot of time. It takes a week. Every day you go in and dribble off a little bit of honey,
Yeah.
and then over time it does darken. So I just melt the wax, pour the honey off as quick as I can, and it's not too bad.
Okay.
And my buyer will still buy it at
Okay.
that point. It just frees me up to do other stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
So
That's right.
yeah. So that's my experience with that thing.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you actually told me that because I never thought about, and I don't have any experience with either one of them. I understand the process of how they work, but until you physically have used something and have a contrast, it's really difficult. And that's the one thing I've said before. With my landscaping company, I can go grab any piece of equipment, whether it's a skid steer or a mini track unit or a mower or any piece of equipment, and I can demo that for a week, and there's no problems. But when it comes to honey processing equipment, you can't just go to Maxent and be like, yeah, can you bring that line down here to me? I want to process a whole bunch of honey. I want to try it on. It doesn't work that way, So you really have to have some insight from somebody else who has used it or gone to a location and physically seen those machines run to understand if that's what you want. Because now you're going to dump, a large sum of money into something that you may not like or may not fit your operation well. So that's the only thing.
The other thing about the extruder when I used it, and don't get me wrong, it was nice. It did a good job. And one of the things it does nice is you can put comb in it that has honey in it, and it'll squash it up. And with the spinner, you need to mash that comb up before you put it in the spinner because otherwise it'll just sit on the screen.
Okay.
The extruder is definitely a lot more complex, and there's a lot more things that go wrong with it, especially if a piece of frame falls in it or something like that. It can bugger it up pretty fast.
The spinner, you can also just hand uncap right into it.
Absolutely. I have 2 friends actually have the junior Max and spinner. They love it. They love it.
I've been looking at that.
So let me ask you this then, Brad. If you have a little experience with the junior or people who do, in your opinion, when you're talking honey production colonies, at what point would you go from a junior unit to the larger unit? In your opinion?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think of how many colonies these guys run. I don't know. I think they're substantially under 100, and I think one of them is quite a bit under 50.
Okay.
And it really depends on how you do it too.
I would say, Tom, I mean, I've seen some different videos and whatever, and I think you want the big one.
And it depends on how you're uncapping too. Most people would use that system with a hot knife or something. Or Maxent, you can put their chain uncapper on top of it, kind of a toaster uncapper, and use it that way. The way I use it under a under a cow and automatic uncapper, that's kind of weird, but it does work well. So, I can say that the junior wouldn't work under there because it's physically not big enough to catch the wax coming out of that uncapper.
Yeah.
Well, Tom's got the like the uncapper like what you got.
It's a licensed brand. It uses hot knives.
Yeah.
Do you have the manual?
Automatic uncapper. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the automatic one.
Yeah, I got the manual.
So what I had to do though, I had to extend the legs on my uncapper up, so it's up quite a ways. It's a long ways up.
Okay.
Like I'm 6'4".
Yeah.
Okay, and the chains for feeding my frames are here.
Oh yeah.
On me, so I'm lifting those frames up a long way to get them on the uncapper.
Sure.
But because I'm tall, it doesn't really bother me at all.
Okay.
I did recently buy a deboxer too, but I haven't got that installed yet.
Yeah. So the reason I'm asking is like I'm looking at it right now on Maxent's website. So the junior cappings, spinner is $2,400.
Yeah.
You
But
can
when
get it
you
for
jump up
22 if you give
to
them cash.
what's that?
Get it for 22 if you give them cash.
Yeah. Well, then you jump up to the senior capping spinner that goes to $6,200.
Yeah.
Which is more in line with the extruder that I was looking at
Yeah.
from Lyson. But I'm like, so anyway, we felt like it was just appropriate to table it for the time being. We'll just continue to process our wax the way we do, which is basically just takes time and we let it drain out and then kind of work it from there. And then I let the bees finish cleaning it up, fluff it up, and then we usually go from there to solar wax melters, and that works pretty good at the time of year that we're using the solar wax melters.
Probably the biggest advantage in work with the extruder is with the spinner, you need to stop, take the lid off, and dig all the wax out of it.
Yeah.
It's a batch system. It doesn't flow through. You need to get in there with a scraper, scrape the wax out, put it in a pail or whatever, right? Where there's the extruder, it'll just feed a bucket of some kind, a container. You just pull the container out and put a new one in there. It's a continuous flow system.
Sure. Well, and that's the way the Lyson one works. It's made to go up underneath the automatic uncapper head.
Right.
And as it uncaps, it falls straight down into it. And then as the machine's running, and you just, I guess, have a pail or some sort of a tub underneath the outlet part of that to catch the extrusions, of course. And you'd have to change those out accordingly. But like you said, it's not a batch system. It's more of an automated system. The only issue you'd have to do is keep moving your container size that have the extruders or extrusion and changing that out, of course. The size operation.
It was Ian's P350 at Paradise brand, not Lyson, that I borrowed that year, and I didn't have my uncapper raised up high enough to put it under, so I actually ended up feeding it. I had a big uncapping tank, I think it was a Manlake uncapping tank under it, and I would still dig the wax out of the uncapping tank, throw it in the extruder, so it was still a lot of manual work, but it wasn't a fully baked solution. I was really pleased that he would lend me that for the season. Yeah,
absolutely.
I got experience with it, so I could see, because I was thinking about buying an extruder, and so using it that time, I thought, well, maybe I will, but maybe I won't.
Well, my question is this: all right, you're uncapping, and it also has the honey and the cappings going into your extruder, and it's basically you're separating. But now, if you have like the automatic uncapper, like Tom's got, where it's got the uncapping tank and the screens, and you're letting it drip through, the whole idea behind the spinner is it's got to pay for itself for the amount of honey that you're quote saving,
right? Or work
out of it. But are you really saving much honey?
Work.
Yeah, I was looking at it from a time perspective, not necessarily how much honey am I saving.
I mean, once you're done uncapping, you can just scoop it right into the.
And I am, because before I had the spinner, by volume, half the cappings that I took out of my uncapping tank was honey. And now it's a third or less. So there is more honey being recovered because of the spinner. And not only that, I feel it saves me a ton of work. Now I do have to scrape it out every morning, but still, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
I put wheels on my uncapper, and so they're workbench wheels. If you ever see them, Tom, where you with your foot you hit the little lever and push them down, it lifts up. So I just hit the levers and slide the uncapper sideways off of the spinner, take the lid off, and scrape it out. So I don't have to. Last year I was actually muscling that big spinner out from under the capper every morning. I tell you, you get a workout.
You only did that once, right?
Oh, I did it all fall.
Yeah.
I did it for a month every day.
Well, that was kind of like Melissa and I when we had on our stove heated up and made a bunch of sugar syrup, and I had done that with a 2,200 pound bag of tote bag of sugar. And after we finished it up that year, I said, I will never do this again. And at that point in time, I'm like, okay, this required way too much time, and there's too much value in my time. So that's when I had built that feed tank with the pump system and everything on it. And I didn't even spend that much money. I spent like $750 or $800 on it, but yet the amount of time it saves me is invaluable. You know, you don't need multiple people getting it processed the night or a couple days before. You can mix it. I usually mix most of that sugar syrup up the night before and let it settle out and suspend well, and then I feed the next day. But yeah, it was, again, it's all about these processes, and I look at it from a time saving measure. But again, you're going to be gaining a little bit of honey out of it. So whatever you market, whatever price per pound you market your honey out at, and you're gaining that much additional, that's a bonus.
Being that my work between, say, the third week in August to the second week in October defines the size of my operation, the amount of work I can handle. Anything that saves me a little bit of time or effort will allow me to run 1 or 2 more colonies, so I can make more money at that.
Sure.
Right. And I was going to say that another reason I went to moving the uncapper off of the spinner is I do want to bolt it to the floor just to take care of those times where it gets a little bit rock and roll.
Yeah.
So I didn't do that yet. I wanted to see that my wheel thing is actually going to work, but it did. So next year I'm going to drill the floor.
Brilliant idea.
He's asking about this roller uncapper. I think he's talking about the Simple Harmony Farms.
Yeah, I think so.
I hadn't seen anybody in the chat answer him. I guess nobody on the chat used them.
Well,
I've seen them, but I've never used them.
Melissa and I had one, and we started with that. I've never uncapped with a regular knife. I've never uncapped with a hot knife. Well, I have, but I've never done it for my operation. We started with that Simple Harmony Farms uncapper. I found a tank from a medical company. It was a large stainless steel tank, already had a drain in the bottom of it. And I had a friend of mine who's a fabricator fabricate a shelf system to go inside this tank where the Simple Harmony Farms uncapper went also. So I could set it up to where the uncapper was in there, and I could set the frames out on both sides of this tank. That's how it worked out. And I had a little shelf in the middle that I could set my tools on, like your little roller, the little pokey roller thing that you can kind of use for uncapping. So what we couldn't get with the Simple Harmony Farms, we would finish off with that. Yeah. And honestly, we used that up until just this last year, and it worked well for us. It's not perfect.
Well, those same blades are right here. I don't know if y'all can see it.
No.
But that's the one that's got those rollers in it.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all have ever seen it or not.
I think I seen your video of you uncapping.
But
yeah,
I bought this long before those rollers came out. This cost a lot more than $300.
Yeah. I think Simple Harmony Farms, I want to say was $400, if I remember correctly.
That's probably what they are now. Yeah.
Yeah. But that worked really well. I liked it. The thing that I did not like about it is when you're not removing the caps off of it, that's more congestion in your straining process. And the way I was doing it was so you're flinging those cappings off. You're not cutting the cappings off. You're opening them up. You're slicing them open, and they're still there. So when you go to slinging, a lot of those cappings will come off into your extractor. So now when you're filtering it, you have a lot more of those cappings that you have to filter. And when you're using buckets and you're using those bucket top filter setups, you have to run about 5 or 6 buckets out and constantly scraping it. So that's a lot of time it takes, which was fine when we first got started, but it just we started to outgrow that very quickly and realized that we needed to go to something else. And that's when we started to research at that point.
You get about half of them there. You don't hardly get any in the uncapping tank, but you get about 40% in your strainer. And then you get the rest of them when you set the boxes out for the bees to clean up.
Yep.
I always put it on top of a telescoping cover where to catch it all.
Yeah.
That's where most of it goes out there.
from what I mean, never had one, but from what I can see of it, to me, it's not all that efficient. I mean, you always had to, instead of going one pass, you're going up and down, and then you got to sit there and scratch.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take my Max Ant honey plane and go zoom, and I'm done.
I don't know. It's
Well,
pretty,
if your comb is built out right, it works great.
yeah. If you have a thin comb, anything's going to be difficult to work. If you have the combs a little thicker, it honestly works well. I mean, there's, I say we kept that little roller wheel to catch anything, and you'll have little spots on it. Even with the automatic uncapper setup, if the combs are not thick enough, you can have some that need a little attention. It's not much, but it may require a little bit of attention.
Well, that's one thing that I don't think it's ever been shown when we're all working at the Abbey. Nobody ever sees, don't get, because that's took off to the side and somebody scrapes it off and sets it back in the uncapper. I don't think they've ever really showed that process, but it even happens with the chain uncappers.
Yeah, I know Max Ant has the chain uncapper, and that was the original brand I was looking at. But when I seen the chain uncapper and I heard some people talk about them, I knew that I didn't want it, because when I had seen it, and this could have been the process of which somebody used it, and maybe they weren't using it correctly, I don't know. It seemed like it tore a lot of the comb off there, and I'm like, man, that seems like a lot of repair work the next year. So that was my thought, and that was the reason I ended up not going with a chain uncapper. I wanted a hot knife setup, and there's only a couple companies that do that, License One. And then you have Cowan that does the same thing, but it's about 35% more cost for one of those machines. I personally would have rather had a Cowan because it is made here in the USA, but at 35% more, I just, I didn't want to pull the trigger on that, just the cost difference on them. So,
Tom, on your license, the steamer exit port, what do you have it into a bucket or?
No, it's a closed system. So the manual, I believe, is a little different than the automatic. The automatic,
mine has a pot, and
yes,
it shows I think you drill a hole in a bucket, and let it vaporize into that. I don't know if you put water in it or.
Yeah. So I know what you're talking about. And that was one of the reasons why I did spend a little bit more money and I went with the automatic setup, was partly because of that. So the system you have does use that steam, like a steam generator, whereas the one that I have uses a closed system, and they use propylene glycol in there, which is, I guess, a food safe product. And you should not, you shouldn't have to replace it.
This you have to refill it. So
yeah. So this one it recycles in itself. So it's a closed system on there. So that's the beauty of that one. So I don't have to deal with that part of it.
Well, that wasn't
What's
as
up,
helpful
Mr.
as I
Todd?
was hoping.
Not much.
Glad you found us,
Taking it
Todd.
day by day. What's that, Brad?
I'm glad you found us.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I had some computer issues again, apparently. So, anyway, I finally made it. I was eating dinner when you first came on, Joey. So I got, after a little bit after you got on, I was eating dinner. So, but anyway, not much is going on. Same old. Just listening to the conversation about uncappers.
Yeah.
About it.
What process are you using, Todd?
Pardon me?
What process are you using?
Forearm and a hot knife.
Yep.
Yeah, I do it the old-fashioned way still. So I don't have a lot of room to put a system in. So
yeah,
I just do it in one of those double screen totes or whatever, and then throw them right in the extractor. So
I like using the hot knife, but only on the medium frames.
Yeah,
I don't like using it on the deep frames.
Yeah, I have all deep frames. So every once in a while, I'll catch myself right in the wrist, because it barely goes across a deep frame.
Yeah.
At least the one that I have. So,
I mean, if you got fat combs and on mediums, man, that hot knife is just as quick as anything else.
yeah.
That's why I'm swapping all my honey supers to mediums. I'm getting rid of I'm turning my deeps into brood boxes and going all the mediums.
What's the company that's gotten real popular with those hot knives? I thought they made one now
Pierce?
for a deep frame.
Pierce.
Pierce.
Yeah, I think
Somebody
Pierce has
complained about that where, hey, I think it was James. He complained to him, why don't you build one and it's, wide enough in order to cut the damn thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all made
Not-
for mediums. They're not long
Yeah.
enough for deeps to, be convenient. So they did.
Yeah.
They made a longer
What?
one.
What's funny is why did they make
one?
it?
I didn't
Why did
know
they what?
I didn't know they had a longer one.
Why did they what, Todd?
Why did they, if it was for mediums, why did they make the blade that long? I mean, there's plenty of room. They could have cut it down another couple inches easily.
Isn't there also like a Western, which is in between the medium and the deep?
There's a lot of sizes.
Yeah.
There's a 3/4. There's a shallow. There's, I don't know what they call in Illinois, but
Maybe that's what it was.
there's
Yeah, I
that.
think so. Yeah.
I don't know. I did it 3,000 pounds with a bread knife last year.
Holy cow!
That's
Man.
what
Well, it's
what
nice
Mike
because the
Perry
blade,
uses a knife.
the blade's like 15 inches long. You do
Right.
it deep, you can do them nice.
My third year, I uncapped 12,000 pounds with a hot knife that wasn't long enough to do deep frames.
Oh my!
I felt like a fiddler crab. I had one really big arm uncapping all this honey.
Yeah, I had a Popeye arm on him.
Yeah. It was crazy.
Another thing with the hot knife, when you hang, it's full of honey. It gets kind of hard to do them big frames.
Yeah. It's a mess.
Yeah. But when you pour and cheap, that's what you got to use.
Yeah.
Gets the job done, right, Brad?
That's
I-
right.
Well, that year I had my old cow and uncapper, and it was kind of sitting in the corner because when I bought it, it was so out of adjustment that it was just a frame smasher.
Yeah.
There was no way a frame could feed through that thing properly, and it, I didn't know what to do with it. It was pretty complex in my opinion, and so it just sat quiet in the corner while I uncapped all this honey with a hot knife. It's kind of crazy, but
You bought it used?
used, yeah, it's almost as old as I am. I think it's an old cow and uncapper.
I was
Same with Mike's
watching
tractor.
at Baker's honeybee farm out there in Utah, the new guy, and he's got a video out. It's a Cowan and uncapper. It's kind of like the Maxant chain uncapper, where it's one frame at a time. You just put it in the top like a toaster, and it goes down, and then it goes. Of course, it's not feeding out the. I think he made the uncapping tank for it, but it's like, man, where did you find that thing? I mean, it's old, but why isn't Cowan making something like that? It's a little bit more, a little bit, a little more economical.
That's a real old cow that Bracken's got. That's almost as old as I am, I'd say.
Yeah, but still, I mean, it's still feasible.
It's practical. It works.
Yeah, he the guy who had it didn't know what the hell to do with it, and he hooked up hot water lines to it. He made a hot heater and all that, and he circulates hot water through it. And he said, "Man, that thing just is slick."
Yeah.
And all. You would think that they
I
would
watched
come up with.
I watched a video from that girl, Beekeeping.
Mhm.
And she was at some guy's bee farm videoing him in his honey house, and he had two honey extractors that were over 100 years old, and them things would spin, look like 100 miles an hour, and it had a handbrake that you had to slow down the spinner, and the guy would slowly hit it to slow down the spinner. It would put a pressure on the belt. Looked like it had a 3/4 horse motor on it, spinning the frames. But that thing, it was pretty awesome looking.
Makes you wonder how many blowouts they had with regular wax foundation on that thing.
Yeah, really. But that thing was sure spinning fast, and it held like I thought he said 84 or something like that.
Yeah.
They don't
Well,
like it.
aftermarket brand Uncapper. Myself, it's a Savannah brand. That's what I call her anyway. Savannah. That's her name.
What'd you call her?
Savannah.
I'm gonna say goodnight. I got to get up early.
All
I gotta
right.
go
Good night,
too.
Mike.
Hey,
Thank
Mike.
you, Joey.
See you,
Good night,
Charlie.
everyone.
Glad you come in. Appreciate y'all.
I'll see y'all later.
See you Friday.
Hmm.
Where'd it go? Jason Christman, JC's Bees. That's some of
Yeah.
his homies.
All right.
Oh man.
Things has got quiet since old diarrhea mouth is off the screen.
Holy moly.
You watch yourself, JW. I'm still here. I'm just eating a little bit of dinner right now. I can still hear you, old man.
Diarrhea mouth.
I figured
Yeah.
everybody was up. He was out there.
Feel like I'm watching the old TV show The Odd Couple there for a second.
Yeah. Yeah, JW, don't be saying what we thinking.
Yeah.
Diarrhea mouth.
Yeah, we've been going 2 hours, 26 minutes, and 33 seconds.
Yes, sir.
Been
Time
a pretty
flies
good-
when you're having fun.
What did I miss in those 2 hours and 15 minutes?
It's on YouTube. You can watch it.
Yeah, you have to watch it on YouTube. You missed the Tom Softman 35 minutes and 42 second solicit or station on the. I think it was. I wasn't paying a lot of attention. It was on,
I don't know
We
what it
started,
was.
we started off talking about that. Let's see, that greenhouse right there.
yeah.
Talked about the hive lifter.
That's a nice little greenhouse.
You know, around here, what they put in California's #1 cash crop in those things.
Yeah. Yeah. I got you. I use it for also. No, it isn't.
That's what's wrong with you.
That's why you're so mellow, huh, JW?
Yeah.
And truthful.
Just have to sleep in the back.
Well,
Well, I
You know, it could've been
appreciate
worse.
everybody coming in. I'm gonna go ahead and shut the chat down. Appreciate everybody over the chat. Appreciate everybody coming in the studio. It's been a good talk tonight. We have to come up. We'll just do a repeat Saturday or come up with some new information.
yeah.
See who got stung the most.
There you go.
I'm going to give a speech on the sex life of mint flavored toothpick Saturday night. y'all tune in and
You know what? I'll join in just for that because I got to hear what you have to say about that.
See y'all later.
yeah.